Now, with regards to the story, particularly in this China, this China story and others, it then leads me to ask the question that will the African film industry ever catch up to the world's best? When I'm talking about the world's best, definitely we are talking about that of China, that of US, that of Bollywood, and a host of other cinemas from around the globe that are performing very well. And I'm asking this question because when you take a look as to how globally the revenue for box office have dwindled, already we are struggling, in terms from the continent. How are we going to catch up, let alone even be performing well as they are performing? I mean, perhaps way back in the 2019s or the 2010s. Now we already are faced with I mean, in terms of revenue, it's dwindling. The question is, can we catch up? Well, it looks like there's been a lot of things put in place to help Africa cinema catch up. And already from Bollywood to a lot of the stakeholders who are putting in place certain infrastructure, it looks like it's very promising for that to happen. Some time back, the Netflix and Amazon and I think HBO is still in Africa, not as HBO but Showmax. They did help open the possibilities as to how African films can perform globally. And even though they have reduced their support for the industries, which is understandable, seeing that they are not making the bottom line money that they were expecting, it looks like heavy players in the industry are showing up, are stepping into that gap that have been created. So you have Mo Abudu with this Ebony live stream or Ebony on stream or something. And you have so many other streaming platforms coming up in Africa to fill that gap as well. You also have distribution platform companies that are stepping in the gap to distribute films all across Africa. And even excitingly, Canal Plus, which is also a foreign entity, has come to acquire the multi-choice platform services, and they are looking at distributing films across the Africa, across Africa, especially along the divide, the language divide. When I'm talking about a language divide, I'm talking about the Anglophone and the Francophone countries. So they are really hell bent in making things work in the longer term. So on the broader scope, currently, as if you take a look at the industries now, it is not as easy. The numbers, the data, the little data that is available doesn't seem so promising. But if you take a look also globally, how African films are performing at the International Film Festival, it looks like when we talk about stories in terms of rich storytelling, we are doing quite well. And these films are winning awards all over the place. And it speaks to how far we have come in terms of the craft of storytelling. However, the business side is where we are also looking at. There's been projections as to how much Africa will be making come 2030. I think we'll be making $20 billion come 2030 by a UNESCO report. So there are indicators that shows that Africa is doing well. As to whether we'll be able to perform on the very scale or scope as to the others are performing, that I cannot speak to it for sure. But it also shows the challenges, the deeper challenges that we are facing with regards to funding and investment, piracy, infrastructure deficiencies, and policy and regulatory support. And if you've been watching this channel for quite some time, I've always been hammering or stressing on the fact that without the three factors of policy enforcement or policy enactment and infrastructure and also data, the films in Africa or the film industry in Africa will face quite an uphill battle. and we should even be making more than $20 billion, seeing that the Africa African continent is the second most populous continent in the world after Asia. So it means that we have the numbers. However, economic challenges makes it quite difficult to be able uh, to 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 reconcile the numbers together with the revenue. However, it is a step in the right direction that despite the fact that we are not making much in terms of revenue, well, it looks promising with all the things being put in place. And you can see across board, not just among Africans, but also among Africans and other people from other continents. We are making movies together and we are tapping into the markets of both continents or of different continents as well. So these are quite promising indicators that yes, we may not be able to catch up. Perhaps we may not be able to catch up with the best of the industries in the world, but at least we are getting somewhere positive, somewhere good. More can be done and more should be done if we really want to make the $20 billion and even break that, go beyond that projection. So there's a lot that has to be put in place, but so far so good. It looks like Africa, we are doing the best we can from this year in particular. A lot of stories, and not just this year alone, but last year as well. A lot of African stories performed well at several prestigious film festivals, and that is indeed a sure indication of for it. And also with audiences from all over the globe seeking for diversity of storytelling, it looks like if we position ourselves well, we can be a major force to contend with, where we have several stories that are being told. And perhaps across board, what we need is necessary support to elevate our production value across all films that we make in Africa. And that perhaps may go a long way to change the game in favor for the African film industry. So let me know what you think. And there's a lot more to talk about this. Perhaps at the right time, I think we would have to delve deeper into it. But what do you think is the biggest hurdle for African films, from of the continent to gain more global market share? Is it funding? Is it distribution? Or just perception? And whatever you think about it, kindly leave it in the comment section below. And all too soon, I've come to an end of this episode of the Film Mandate.